Let me start by asking you this. What's Joe Rogan's dreams?
What's Joe Rogan's dream?
What's Joe Rogan's dream?
Joe Rogan, Dana White. What's Dana White's dream?
Did you just think I was
totally
Joe
did.
Rogan?
I totally did.
She just called me Joe Rogan. You thought I was Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
So obviously we saw the viral interview, right? I wanted to ask you a little bit about that briefly, just to kick this off. What was the context around that interview? And did she genuinely think that you were Joe Rogan, or did she misspeak?
No, her and I are actually really good friends.
Oh, okay.
That's why when she hit me with that, I was like, what? But think about this. That was the launch of her podcast.
That was the first ever show.
That was the launch of her podcast. And that thing, you couldn't ask for a better moment to go viral. It was huge. I mean, it still pops up on my feed.
Just landed absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Well, it was just nerves?
I don't know what it was. I don't know what she was thinking about or whatever. You know, it was funny and we laughed and everything, but you know, her and I have never really talked about what she was thinking at that moment, but it couldn't have worked out any better.
Landed absolutely perfect. Recently, Mike Tyson was interviewed by this young journalist named Jazzy. I don't know if you saw.
Love her.
Okay, yeah, she's amazing.
I love her.
Absolutely amazing. She asked Mike Tyson a question about legacy, and then interview turned out to be hilarious. He went on to say something to the effect of, legacy means nothing. When we're dead, we're dead. Who gives a shit about legacy? It's all ego, so on and so forth.
No, I don't believe in the word legacy. I just think that's another word for ego. Legacy doesn't mean nothing. It means absolutely nothing to me.
Do you have the same sentiments about legacy, being that you built something that's once in a generation like the UFC? Do you have the same sentiments about legacy, or what do you feel about what legacy should be, what we leave behind?
I say this all the time. When people ask me about legacy is your children and your children's children. And at the end of the day, what you did for a living doesn't really mean anything when it's over.
Let's say you woke up one morning, hypothetically, obviously, everything you have is gone. You're down to maybe $10,000 in your bank account. What steps would you take as a businessman, entrepreneur, to get everything back? And I don't necessarily mean the UFC, but get it all back. You're determined to become a multimillionaire over again. How do you get it all back?
Yeah, it's not how I think. That's not the way that I'm wired. Like, let's get it back. Right. You just get back into the grind of whatever it is that you do, and you just start to rebuild your life. It's never about a dollar amount or money or any of that stuff. It's about, what do you love to do every day when you get up? I don't ever think about the money. I just do what I like to do. And when you do what you like to do well, money is just part of what happens.
Right. Prior to the UFC, was there something else in your life that you loved to do, or was this it? Was this the passion?
Some of the greatest moments of my life that I look back are when I was broke. You know, I was happy and loved my life when I was broke, and I'm happy and I love my life now that I'm not broke. I don't know. It's never really about money for me. Yeah, it never was.
Was there a different focus prior to the UFC, or was this was your goal and your dream to put together the Ultimate Fighting Championship?
Well, my goal was to be in the fight business at some level. You never think that it's going to be at this level until it all just starts to come together. But now that I'm in it every day, the goal is to continue to push and make the UFC bigger and bigger, and go to places you've never been and introduce people that have never experienced it live. And, you know, those are the things that I think about and my goals. And whether it's UFC, PowerSlap, or any of this other stuff that I do, it's all about beating yesterday. How do I beat yesterday? How do I make this bigger than it was yesterday? How do we get bigger? You know, every year I say, holy shit, we just had another, record-breaking year. How are we going to beat last year? And we do.
Was there an exact moment where you realized that the UFC was going to be taken to an entirely different level?
I always felt that way since the day we bought it. But obviously, the real big moment for me was the finale of The Ultimate Fighter. That night, all the crazy shit that went on that season, and with Spike TV and, all the stuff that had gone on that year, when that finale ended, I said, I don't give a shit if we do a new deal with these guys or not. We're going to end up somewhere. And then obviously, we ended up doing the deal in the alley on a napkin with Spike TV.
That legally holds up in court when you do a deal on a napkin, correct?
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, we had the structure of a deal on a napkin. And then we went out and, got the deal done. But yeah, that's literally the way that it happened.
So this question is actually from my nephew, Brandon. He's in the Air Force. He's a huge fan of you. He's also a huge fan of John Jones. I know you're a big supporter of John Jones, and I'm sure you've heard the viral question going around on the internet. How many grown men can take on one silverback gorilla?
If I fucking hear this thing one more time, so I have a crew that I travel with everywhere. And one of my longtime good friends, Skipper Kelp, he's a boxer, is obsessed with this gorilla thing. The gorilla fucking wipes everybody out, okay? And what I hate is when you start to get into the carnage that would start from the gorilla. The other however many people would run. And then they try to come up with, well, what if if there's no weapons, the gorilla rips through everybody.
Even if it was a trained UFC fighter, you have 80 John Jones versus one silverback gorilla, you still feel like they're done.
I mean, even if you're John Jones or any of the baddest dudes that have ever walked the face of the earth, once the carnage starts, you start seeing arms getting ripped off and, all this, it's over.
Brandon, I told you I was going to ask the question. I asked the question. That one's for you.
It's crazy how big that's gotten.
It's insane. That's what I love about the internet. You get to see the algorithms of the internet and what takes off, and that just happened to be the one that took off. I absolutely love it. I like when the whole world gets in on the discussion. It's like my thing. Now, obviously, as you know, we recently interviewed Tito Ortiz, and one of the questions we asked him was, did he have any regrets or any beefs throughout the UFC? And the one thing that he said was that he regrets wearing the Dana White is my bitch t-shirt. Now, I do give him credit during the interview for apologizing, but then he went on to say that he believes that the fallout from that was you creating memes and social media pages about him and having the internet blast him. What's the context of that story? Do you feel like he's being accurate with what he's saying, or what are your thoughts about it?
The memes are out there because he's stupid and he's not a public speaker. And he continues to speak publicly. And that is why the memes are out there. To think that I'm the one back there, what shit I have to do? I was an hour late to this interview. You think I'm out making Tito Ortiz memes? Are you kidding me? That's hilarious that he thinks that, but it is on par for Tito and how dumb Tito is. Listen, I have no ill will toward Tito. It is what it is. The fact that he thinks that the fallout is from him wearing that shirt is actually right on par for Tito. And the fact that he thinks that I'm creating memes, are you kidding me? But that's typical Tito. Tito is not a bright guy. You interviewed him. I don't know. It just is what it is. It wasn't the t-shirt. It was all the other things that Tito did that I always talk about. Tito is a step over $1 to pick up a dime guy. At the time when the business was rickety and we're trying to build it and do what we've done today, you couldn't have had a worse human being to deal with than Tito. He was just, he was the kind of guy that would do a deal, and then as we would get close to the event, he'd call and say, I'm not going to fight unless you pay me more, and just all kinds of bad stuff that he did at the time to ruin a relationship. I mean, in life is all about relationships. And one of the things I learned early, like with Tito, is there's some people that you can't have relationships with and that you definitely just don't want to have relationships with. And Tito is one of those guys. And it has nothing to do with him, Dana's a bitch. When you look at all the stuff that happened organically between me, Tito, Chuck Liddell, and a lot of the other guys that were involved, it was literally like a soap opera back then. And fans got into it and they liked it, and it was all part of the appeal of the UFC at the time. And like I said, I have zero ill will about Tito. I hope Tito's doing well. I hope his family's doing well and all that shit. But Tito Ortiz is a guy that you do not want to be in a relationship with.
In the past, I believe you mentioned that you never want to retire, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetically, let's say next week you had this amazing epiphany and you're like, I'm done. I want to retire and step away and walk away from the UFC. Is there anyone that you feel could take the reins and still continue on and create the path that you've created?
Well, this is a funny question, too, that everybody asks, and that who would be teed up next? This thing is such a massive fucking machine. And, there's a chief operating officer here, there's a CFO, it's not as like, who would come in and fill this role? Every time I hear people talk about this, whether it's in interviews or stories or whatever I see, it just shows me how much people really don't know this business or understand it. And it's a much more complicated question than who would fill this role. It's a massive, massive company. And we continue to get bigger every day. And I'm not just talking about the UFC. TKO is the entire business. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. And it's not when I retire, it's when I die, okay? Because I'm not retiring. When I die, we will see how this all shakes out.
Work until you're 100, 150 years old. This wasn't a question I typically was going to ask, but now that you brought it up, I know you're into biohacking, correct? Is there an age that you feel like you'd want to live to? If you can hit any specific age, or would it just be forever?
Yeah, that's the thing too. I'm not looking to live to be 100 and fucking, hey, I'm 130 years old. No. What I'm looking for is a good quality of life while I'm alive. I want to be able to get up and live my life and, not be in pain, not be tired, that's why I do I actually just met with Brian Johnson last week. What a fascinating, we met right over there. We sat right at those chairs over there. Fascinating guy. And, he's turning me on to some stuff that I'm going to add now to my daily regimen and try to hit these different biomarker numbers that he turned me on to.
Have you checked the age of your individual organs?
So he has that whole setup. So I'm actually going to do that next week. He just sent me all the stuff. It's literally sitting on the table out there. And I'm going to get a little deeper into this.
In the past, you mentioned that you're the type of person that does not care what people think about you. Throughout your career, was there ever a time that you actually did care what people think, and when things were said, it kind of hit you in the gut? Because we all say we don't care what people think, but when things start circulating out there about us, you kind of take it personal sometimes.
No, I love it. No, I actually love that stuff. So I don't give a what anybody thinks. And when people say that I can't or we can't or things that can't be done, those are the things that I actually like to do. But the stuff like we were just talking about earlier, the stuff about the business and me and all this other stuff, no, the people who know me and the people who think they know about this business know nothing about this business, like what we just talked about a couple minutes ago. So none of that stuff bothers me. It actually inspires me and fires me up. I actually like it.
Right. So when someone says you can't do something,
or
fire under you,
or whatever people, I don't give a I have a very small circle of people that I care about and that I, deal with every day. Outside of that circle, I could give a shit.
When PowerSlap initially came out, you look at the comments under social media posts, and it was obviously hit with heavy criticism. It's brutal, it's over the top, so on and so forth. What do you say to those specific critics that talk about PowerSlap in that way?
I don't. I mean, it's the same exact stuff that was said about the UFC. Identical. Literally everything that was said about PowerSlap was said about the UFC. I went through that already, and I know the fight business. I know what works and what wasn't working. When I started to watch PowerSlap on social media, not PowerSlap, but the slap and shit that was coming out of Poland and Russia at the time, I was fascinated by it because I would stick around to see who won. And I was like, and I'm the most jaded, I've been in the fight business for over 30 years. So I was like, this is interesting. I think if I did this the right way, and the same thing I said with UFC, I think this would work. So picked up the phone and called my boys, the Tito brothers, and I said, listen, I'm thinking about doing this. You guys want to get in on this? And they said, how much money do you need?
What are the stats looking like on PowerSlap right now? Like, as opposed to, well, obviously UFC is a different entity, a different animal, but how are you looking with the numbers on PowerSlap so far in its trajectory upwards?
I have never been a part of something so successful in such a short amount of time.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you see it going in the next 5-10 years?
Remember I said this. You got it on film. This will be bigger than the UFC.
Really?
This will be bigger than the UFC.
PowerSlap will be bigger than the UFC.
100%.
It's absolutely incredible to hear you say. What do you think about PowerSlap would make it bigger than the UFC?
Well, you don't have to train for 10 years and take all these different disciplines and you know what I mean? Anybody can get involved in it. And if you're, a big, powerful athlete with a good chin, PowerSlap works. And we're actually taking it on the road in the United States for the first time. We're going to New Orleans. We're going to do a fight in New Orleans, and we're getting sanctioned in all the different states. We just did a big deal with Saudi Arabia. Abu Dhabi we have a big deal with, and we'll be announcing other big deals coming up soon in other parts of the world. So yeah, it's been fun for me. It's almost like starting over, building something new from the ground up again.
Absolutely.
I've had a blast doing it.
This is just a question I thought off the top. I'm sure somebody's asked you this before, but is there a disadvantage in PowerSlap to being the person that slaps second?
So that was the big question in the beginning, but the answer is no.
Why so?
Because we have tons of stats now, and somebody who slaps second, the number of guys that win
Interesting.
that slap second, is bigger than most people would realize. Right. Yeah.
If somebody gets knocked out on the first slap, then they obviously don't have their chance to slap.
Right. Right.
So then
there is definitely an advantage to going first. You know what I mean? But it's not as big as you would think it is.
Right, understood. Now, I'm somebody that dramatically studies social media consistently. Every time I see a PowerSlap video, they're all viral, almost every single one. Now, I'm not sure if you know this. I know you don't post the PowerSlap videos yourself. I'm sure you have a whole social media team. Is there any specific strategy they use to posting the videos, whether it be time of day? Obviously, watch time is key to getting a viral video. Like you said, when you initially watched PowerSlap, you watched it for a long period of time. That's what gets a video to go viral. Does your social media team have any specific strategy to get these slap videos to go viral, or is it just the content itself that goes.
Yeah, it's the content itself. When you think about it, when we post these videos, it's the night of the event. So, that stuff's going up. Plus, there are tons of influencers that are there posting their own. Have you looked at the social numbers on PowerSlap? It's insane. Yeah.
Well, how many followers you have now on PowerSlap?
Do you know what the number is, Lene, off the top of your head? No, for total followers on PowerSlap. I'm going to let you walk away with a sheet that we have on it.
Amazing.
It's mind-boggling.
When you did the merge between WWE and the UFC, and obviously, like you said, there's always going to be critics about everything you do. Oh, it's not going to work. It's going to water down the UFC, so on and so forth.
Well, even things that are like the UFC that's super successful, you're always going to have critics, but they don't matter. Right. The critics don't matter.
And you would obviously never let the UFC be watered down by any kind of partnership, WWE or anything.
What do you mean watered down with the WWE?
People say that the WWE, it's more for theatrics and so on and so forth. UFC's real.
Yeah, well, it is. So you have the WWE, which will, attract a certain type of fan base. You have the UFC, which will attract a different type of fan base. We own PowerSlap, which obviously attracts a different, and the list goes on and on and on.
And there's someone that watches them all because they're fans of all of them.
This is what I always say. When you're a global business, and that's the business, WWE is a global business. UFC is a global business. PowerSlap is a global business, right? Not everybody has to like it. There's 8 billion people in the world. You need this many people to give a shit, and you have a very successful business.
Now, you work with, obviously, a ton of insane personalities in your career with everything you've been doing in the UFC, now PowerSlap. How do you determine who is an instant star? Is there a specific character trait in an individual, like someone like a Conor McGregor, that you look at him and you're like, guy's going to be a star, that woman's going to be a star, just know it?
Yeah, I felt it the minute I met Conor. I felt it the minute I met Ronda. And then there's people you don't know. In my business on the UFC side, the only thing, you can be a deaf mute, but as long as you're a badass and you can fight, you're going to be a star. Because at the end of the day, what people really care about is who is the baddest person in the world in each weight class. And then if you have a hint of a personality, that's a home run.
Can you narrow down to who you feel like was the biggest superstar within the UFC?
Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor, that was it. And what do you think about Conor McGregor that did it for the people?
Obviously he could fight. He just has an unbelievable personality. And the thing is about Conor is when you see him, and originally you think, oh, this guy's putting on this persona for the camera. He's like that if he's home watching TV, with his wife and kids. That's the way he acts. Yeah, Conor just had personality over the top.
Is there anyone that you see right now that may be the next Conor McGregor that's coming up?
There won't be another Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is unique. He's a unicorn. There will be another type of star that will emerge, and they will be, they'll do it their way.
For the final questions, we're going to do a quick UFC lightning round, kind of old school versus new school, different weight classes, whatever. You tell me who you feel like would win in a fight, and maybe one sentence on why you feel that way. Super simple. It's kind of obvious. We just talked about Conor McGregor, but Kimbo Slice, rest in peace, versus Conor McGregor.
Oh, different weight classes, different sizes.
I matched them up that way, yeah.
Yeah, you have to go with Conor McGregor because he's more well-rounded as a fighter. When you think about the internet and going viral, Kimbo Slice, was the beginning of it.
I used to watch the brawls.
Yeah, me too. And it was something crazy and unique that the world had never seen before. These guys fighting in backyards. But yeah, he was like one of the first big fighters to go viral.
George St. Pierre versus Leon Edwards.
Oh, Jesus. Talking different eras. And GSP, his wrestling was always on point. He could, take somebody down when he wanted to, put him against the fence. And, for a guy who wasn't a wrestler and didn't have a wrestling background coming out of Canada, George St. Pierre's wrestling was on point.
Randy Couture versus John Jones.
John Jones. Listen, John Jones, everybody knows, people yell it to me when I'm in the, walking down the streets, John Jones, John Jones is the greatest of all time.
BJ Penn versus Islam Makhachev.
Yeah, it's kind of unfair because, the guys who were the pioneers of this thing, like the BJ Penns, a guy like Islam, the new level of athlete. But BJ was a freak. BJ was an absolute freak of nature. At the time, he was a jiu-jitsu kid who ended up getting into fighting, and his stand-up was great. His wrestling takedown defense was great. His submissions, it's a tough one. Islam could go down as one of the greatest of all time, too. So sort of an unfair, again, I'd have to go with the newer, more well-rounded athlete like Islam.
Tito Ortiz versus Jamal Hill.
Tito was great at taking guys down, putting them up against the fence. Tito did not like standing up and punching. That's one of those fights that Tito would want to get to the ground real quick, or Jamal would knock him out.
Frank Shamrock versus Sean Strickland.
Again, Frank Shamrock, a pioneer, a guy who helped build a sport. Strickland is a tough fight for Frank Shamrock.
And Dan Henderson versus Robert Whitaker.
Well, that's a fun one. So Dan Henderson, obviously a wrestler, but that dude had bombs in both hands, knockout power, and so does Whitaker. Yeah, these are all. Who did this list for you? You didn't do this list.
Came up with this.
Did you really? Pretty good. I got to give it to you. Those are great matchups.
ChatGPT helped a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome.
It even has like the pronunciations, and I don't know why I'm reading the pronunciations, so I watch most of these fights. And then Kem Shamrock versus Tom Aspinall.
Aspinall by murder.
By murder.
Yeah, murder.
All right, that's it.